I liked Ozzy, and then it was kind of different for me, man. I was young. You got to think how young we all were, you know what I mean? And I didn't quite catch most of the 80s shit seemed really contrived, and
absolutely
I loved grunge. By the time I was 8, Kurt Cobain had already shot himself. He shot himself like 3 days before my 8th birthday. You know what I mean? I remember the date, like April 5th, and he was found on my birthday. His body was discovered on my 8th birthday, and I was a fan of them at that point. So of course I wasn't gonna like fucking hair metal and shit. It wasn't gonna be my cup of tea at all.
I'm really big into Alice in Chains, man. I think Alice in Chains, to me, was the best. They were the first band out of that scene that got signed to a major.
So, does anybody want to turn up or down their headphones? You can do that on the headphone amp.
Oh, no, it sounds good.
Oh, on just the headphone amp?
Yeah, right here.
Can you turn me up just a little bit? Yeah, I'll take a little volume boost, little la 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 la. It's perfect.
Huh? I'm fine. Fucking titties, man. Titties.
Actually, I think my computer's in here. Get this computer, because I gotta look something up.
Does it sound different now?
I was just saying, if it was comfy.
So yeah, let's just be really careful not just do if wine or bong water spills.
Yeah, my wine cup is empty. My wine cup's empty.
Whoa.
We need like an ends table or something.
I like liquid, man. I'm a liquid imbibe. I remember when I was even younger, I used to drink. If someone would buy me a soda, I would pound it, because I could. And there's no health considerations. There's no reason not to for me in my mind. Oh, well, fuck it, man. Buy me a free soda. And people like Grant Reeder would be like, what the fuck? Because I could just open up the hatch and pour it on down. I could drink the whole soda without taking a breath, without anything. I'd just drink it all, a whole 12-ounce can.
So what's up? What are you doing later?
I know, huh? Yes, I guess. No, I've tried to deep throat some fruit, and it was not pleasant, man. I couldn't.
Some fruit.
Well, it was a zucchini. It was a zucchini, but it was a yellow squash. I'm sorry, my buddy had a zucchini.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Pick up your wine.
Pick up my wine.
Yeah. You want me to wine more?
Wine is picked up. Bong is picked up. Prioritize.
Razzmatazz.
Smoke too much.
Razzmatazz.
Oh my God.
God, sorry, buddy. Here.
My God.
You're almost in the way, Ghost. You're almost in the way, buddy.
We should do a podcast.
Oh, should we?
Just like
Test.
We should just sing the whole fucking thing.
So do people have topics?
I had thought of some things over the weekend. I forgot my notepad, but I had stumbled across just more philosophical rantings and just things, and just I read constantly, and I'm always looking at different podcasts, and I look at different everything, just everything that humans do. I love what humans do. So I've always been interested in the concept of what art is, what we define as art. I remember as a kid, and I can remember really distinctly thinking of art and immediately thinking of paintings, and drawings, thinking of the greats, the Renaissance masters, basically, Leonardo and Michelangelo, all those guys, the big arts, the Sistine Chapel and David and fucking Mona Lisa, these huge pieces that were just, that's what I considered art. I didn't, that's the only, and I think that's true for most kids. I mean, I don't know if you guys would feel the same, if your definition of art has changed throughout your life and what you consider to be an artistic endeavor, or just the product itself is art, even if the person doing it maybe doesn't realize. You know what I mean?
I'm a big pop art fan. I like pop art.
What's pop art?
The most famous pop artist of all time is Andy Warhol, and
okay.
I like vibrant, colorful images.
Kind of going with, the idea of pop art is kind of whatever just happens to be the thing that melds with the people that are listening, you know what I mean? Right? The people that are spending on art, the people that are willing to go pay for an exhibition and things like that. That's kind of what, to me, any kind of music could become pop music. You're looking at, it's just, and same with art. So pop art would be not necessarily following the trend, maybe setting the trend even, possibly, right? They're the ones that maybe they didn't intend to be, like Kurt Cobain. He didn't intend to have pop music, right? He didn't want it to be what it is. That's kind of why he shot himself, I think,
you
right?
listen, he had a lot of pop influences, though, too. He listened to, he had a lot of poppier influences. Alternative pop, but... Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I just watched that one.
Whoa.
Yeah, no, and that's what it is. Well, there's all the influence, but he was kind of going against the grain. But then all of a sudden, he's like he's the standard of pop music, you know, for the time. Like he's a guy who was going against what everyone else was doing, and there was a whole scene. Of course, it's not just him. There's this whole scene revolving around going against the grain and trying to do the next big thing and not be we're anti-pop, and then all of a sudden that's what's popular. So it's defined by what the people love, you know. So I would assume pop art would kind of fall into a similar category. Like,
well, it gets convoluted like anything else. The grunge movement got convoluted. You know, you get bands like "Gone Away on a One-Way Track," blah 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 blah, never come back. Those dudes were a joke, bro. They were a joke. Sorry.
I mean,
that's just record company trash.
But at the same time,
hey DJ.
Yeah.
You remember Blues Traveler?
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude, that's on 4. That's on 4, right? Hello, low, low. Why you gonna give me the run over? Right?
Yeah, that's
run around.
Okay, so now we know what happened to the singer after that. He's sitting across the table from me right now.
Eat a dick. Eat a suitcase. Are you enjoying that suitcase full of dicks on our table right there?
He's great, man. His harmonica. I remember a point where I wanted to learn his harmonica riffs on the guitar.
So how old were you at that time, Greg?
Oh man, I would have been 12 or 13, 14.
And we were like, I think you were probably. I'm just guessing.
No, fuck that. You were like 8 years old.
No, dude.
No, he was.
No,
because we were in 7th grade. We were in fucking.
No, I would have discovered it later.
8th grade.
No, we were in high school. We were like freshmen in high school.
Oh no, it was before
Blues
that, bro.
Traveler.
Yeah.
Blues Traveler wasn't like fucking Nirvana, dude. They were slightly after that shit.
Yeah, no, I fucking realized that, dude. Hey, look it up.
No,
look
you're
it up
right.
on your
Like,
little
no,
computer
think
there.
about this though. I would have been a little bit
7th
later.
or 8th grade when that shit came out. I can remember distinctly listening to that shit.
Do you remember how we all used to make fun of you and call you the guy from Blues Traveler?
Yeah. And
I would have heard it.
And everybody I know just magically has these suitcase full of dicks, like everywhere. You know, it's fucking crazy, man.
I mean, really, it was a compliment, though.
Yeah, no, I think
maybe now that he's lost all that weight, you know what I'm saying? And
is that what has he done with himself? Do we know?
Dude, he's like super in shape and like eats healthy, and like he had to have he got sick of fucking having to have a hip replacement after every tour. Like they would go out and tour, and then he'd have to get a hip replacement. So he's like, "Fuck this, dude! I'm gonna drop some weight and drop some lbs, dude." No, and he
DJ, you need your own personal compressor on your mic.
I do,
which I could probably hook that up, but I don't want to do it right now.
My own.
DJ needs.
So what is art though? What do you guys? What do we consider art? You know what I mean? What do you at this point consider to be? And what is an artistic endeavor? What defines art? And I mean, how do we even get a grasp?
Everything
on what this
I
thing
like is art, and everything I don't like is not art.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
I think that's a really common viewpoint.
That's the common. No, art is just anything that was created whose main doesn't have to be sole, but main purpose is to elicit a emotional response. That would be my personal definition of art.
Yeah, that's beautiful. But what
that.
about the idea that, like, let's say you see a person that does something that is not intended to be a piece of art, right? They're literally just a craftsman of some sort, or they're a laborer. But what they do, their finished product is so perfect and so pristine for that job. That I think that there's certain points where certain people I've worked in certain fields of labor where it's like, God damn, that guy's a fucking artist with that machinery.
Yeah,
you know
I get that a lot because I build like amps and stuff, and people tell me, "Man, that's great art," and I'm like, "It's not art."
Yeah, see, it's funny. There's different definitions. Like I consider anything that because it does. I think on that vein of eliciting an effective response from someone, if it does that. And that's the one of the main points I wanted to make with what I think art. You know, I don't think that what the person intends that's creating it. I think that's maybe if you're lucky half the fucking equation. You know, because you don't have art unless someone is affected emotionally, right? So if someone does something,
you can have bad art. So you can have something somebody made with the intention of eliciting emotion in other people, but they're just not good at it, and then it doesn't elicit any emotion. And so that's still art, but it's just bad art.
Bad art, yeah. See, and I would consider it if it's ineffective, then yeah, bad art is a good word. Ineffective art, you know, something that doesn't elicit an emotional response. Regardless, that's what I mean though, is regardless of the initial intention, the audience is the bigger equation. The audience is at least half of the equation. What the audience interprets from what you're doing. Like when I make a song, is it art when I sit there and I create a song and no one's heard it? Or is it art when people have heard it and it's affected them emotionally and they put what they think the song means, it affects their day to day? Like that's when it becomes art to me. So it requires more. So like the person, you're right, it's bad art. The person who creates something that doesn't affect you emotionally, like, well, this is ineffective. It's you literally have one half of the equation. You got yourself down. You like it, but it's not doing the intended.
I think one of the best. Well, I mean, of course, everybody has their own definition of art, and so I'm not trying to say my definition of art is the right one, but under my definition, I think if you look at like beer, it's a really good way to like differentiate, right? Because there's like beer is a craft, right?
Craft, yeah.
And so it's like if you're brewing beer, you're not trying to you're trying to do the same thing everybody else is doing, but just do it better. For the most part, right? It's craft brewing.
It's craft, yeah.
So there's like these if you enter your beer into a competition, there's almost never like a category for like chocolate dessert beer, you know. It's always going to be like you know, Pilsner or I don't know. I don't even remember IPA,
big,
yeah, all that stuff,
Belgian
right?
whites.
And they're not looking for who does the most unique IPA, right? They're looking for who does who's the best
at their craft,
at executing what they believe to be an IPA. And so that's craft, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But then also there's like artisan beer, you know, where you're trying to do some crazy shit nobody's done before. And then that's art. So that beer's art. But if you're just making an IPA, you're not doing art. It's a craft.
So the creation of something that has not been done before. Like I'm making a new type of beer. I infused it with some fucking flowers I found at the local river, and you can't get it anywhere else. This is like originality.
I put some canna terps in that shit.
Yeah,
well,
that's beautiful.
Creativity.
Yeah, so it's beyond like, because I would consider the guy who surpasses all expectations in a particular craft. Say the guy who, and maybe this is an undefinable thing, you know, but the guy who creates the IPA that is the fucking best, man. It does make you, if you're a long time drinker of IPAs and you've drank them from around the world, you're going, oh my God, this takes me back to when I was fucking 14 drinking this shit out of my uncle's bar when I was back in England, whatever. You know what I mean? Maybe it does take if you're a craftsman, it would take a super extraordinary talent and ability to make it art. Right. I mean, but could it, do you see that as feasible? Like a craftsman that's like a guy who's building a table, but he's incorporated artistic elements into it. Like, holy shit, he's not just building the table. He's carving into the legs, and it's a beautiful piece of art when it's finished. Like, but technically it's a craft.
And to like illustrate what we're trying to say here, and then compare this ornate, like, let's say you have this ornate table with like carvings and maybe some like wolf heads and shit in it, you know. I'm just imagining some crazy like fantasy shit, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and then compare and contrast that with like your typical Amish furniture, right? The Amish furniture is a craft. They're not trying to be creative. They're just trying to make the best fucking furniture
I want this to last
you've ever fucking seen, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the guy making the crazy thing, you know, fantasy furniture with carvings of animals and shit in it, that guy, yeah, he's doing art because he's trying to do something creative and make the table elicit an emotional response.
He surpassed the craft itself into an art form.
Whereas the Amish people are just trying to make the best possible platform for your butt. Oh my.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to kind of. That's what I want to do. You know, I want to hash this definition.
Yeah,
out.
A lot of people I think confuse craft for art, and a lot of stuff that I do is not art; it's craft, and people call it art. And
if you had some new way to do it, right, and you did it in a way that it produced a sound that was like just fucking spectacularly reminiscent of something that people love, would it be maybe? I mean, could you?
Yeah,
there's a way to push
it
into the art, but with certain items, it's going to be certain trades. It's going to be pretty difficult to get into an art form, especially with things that are driven by money. You know, any kind of work where you are a craftsman, and the bottom line with any craft is making money. You're trying to fucking figure a way to make money with what you do, or fill a need, a necessity.
Well, that's why art is awesome, because art, you shouldn't have that intention when you're making art.
It's so, you know, that's beautiful.
It's almost personal too. You know, I think a lot of people's interpretation of art, music, it gets misconstrued. The artist has a different intention, and then everybody, you know, they view their art differently than the artist actually intended.
Yeah, so the guy who's a craftsman, a really good craftsman, could set out, you're really good at doing what you do. You know, you can build what you build. Now, bam, I'm going to take this and do something that's never been done. My intent, I think that's where we get back to intention on what did the artist intend. And typically, when the artist intends something great, they're going to elicit a great reaction, you know, from at least a niche, you know, of people out there. So that's great. Yeah, this is what I was looking for. I've been trying to define the artist in my head. You know, I like to do a lot of shit. You guys know that. Like,
Yeah.
I've been into golf. I've been into wrestling. I've been into the Jeet Kune Do martial arts.
Oh, we should play golf sometime. I love golf. I haven't done it for a long time.
I'm awful.
I gotta clean all the Black Widows out of my clubs.
Same here, dude. I kept track of I actually dented the shit out of my driver, so I kind of want to get a new one. But I kept track of all my cards. I kept cards, you know, just for myself. It was me and my buddy, my drummer, and our bass player. We were just going out and we'd golf. I had literally like 10 cards out of 30 for the year we did Twilight that were 108. I was right at double par, man. I'm a double par golfer.
When I lived in Sacramento, one of my housemates, and I'm not going to say his name, used to work at a golf club there in Sacramento. And when he quit, he took like 3 fucking bags of the driving range tokens. And they work at any driving range, even like the nicest fucking one where you're paying like $100 to hit some balls. Like, and so we would go to like the nicest fucking golf course in Sacramento and just bring like a handful of those tokens and just hit fucking balls on the driving range like all day. And you're there with all these like super rich people and and we're just like we were serious hippies at that point, dude. And like we were burners and we're at the most expensive like golf course and, you know, public golf course. Of course, there's private ones that we couldn't go to, but the most expensive like public golf course in Sacramento,
they
just
still look down
spending
on you.
spending all day like some hippies like hitting balls on the driving range and smoking weed, dude. Like
that sounds epic, man.
It was fun, man.
That's a fun way to get. I mean, that's
and
a
I
great
still
way to get
suck
better
at
it.
driving.
Yeah, no, I love, you know, that's what they say.
driving and putting, man. I suck at those two things, but everything in between, I'm like actually kind of good at.
Kind of decent. You're like, hey man, I'm about 130 yards out. I grab the right iron. I can get the ball close to the green.
When I was in college, there was this this one golf course in Chico, and it was a little bit outside of town, and it was just like a 9-hole. It was like the shittiest golf course, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to say it was like poor quality in general, but compared to the other golf courses, it was the worst one. And yeah, we would go out there just with like a putter and a driver and fucking play the whole course with just those 2 clubs.
Oh, that's fucking amazing right there, dude. Like, yeah, I know the control.
Never mind. Not a putter and a driver. We just play the whole course with a 9-iron and a putter.
Yeah. Do you remember that first time you actually hit the ball and it went right where you wanted it to go?
Oh, yeah.
And landed on the fairway and you're like, holy fucking shit, dude. Like, I remember, you know, even just in the driving range, I was like 14 and my grandpa golfed and I had some ladies left-handed clubs. I'm kind of fucked up on whether I'm left or right.
I thought you were going to say I'm kind of a lady.
No, yeah, I use these ladies left-handed clubs and it deterred me from wanting to be left-handed, you know, but I remember one time I had this, my buddy bought me this left-handed club, this pitching wedge just in case. And I actually used it to get on the green one time when I was out in the woods. And it's the most amazing feeling in the world, man. Like when you accomplish something that you don't think is possible. Like I'm going to hack at this ball 50 times right now. Like it's going to be so bad right now. I'm going to stop keeping score. You know what I mean? Like I'm done. I'm just going to chill. I'm going to drop a new ball and fucking relax and have fun. Like, but I actually hit it and it fucking did it. And it went up by the green. It was like 5 feet from the hole. Just, you know, and that's what I think catches people in any endeavor. And if you can get that feeling strong enough, eventually you're going to go beyond the craft, beyond the sport, say. I mean, there's got to be people that in their prime in a certain particular sport, especially, I mean, we're looking at MMA, that's mixed martial arts, you know what I mean? I mean, but it's got to translate to every sport, baseball, fucking whatever. There's got to be people that are supersede the craft of the sport or the basic element of what they're doing and make it a fucking art, man. Like, you know, and that feeling of tapping into that, just once is all it takes, I think, to addict a person to like pool. Man, it's easy with pool. If you've been around pool tables your whole life and you sink a fucking bank shot you've never done, it's the feeling is just, oh man, that accomplishment. We're creative, amazing beings. And so that's like, to me, the expression of art. We're tapping into it, right?
Yeah, the thing with pool is you do that and then you like try to do it again. And you never can because you're trying too hard. Golf's the same way.
So what was that we were talking about trying? What is it that we do to not try so hard? Wasn't there something you do in particular to where you can kind of, is that?
I try to meditate. Yeah. If you try too hard to not try, then that's the same as trying.
Well, maybe some people have rituals, substance rituals, whatever, you know, like if I try too hard, if I don't have 3 shots of Jack Daniels down my throat before I start playing pool, like, you know.
Yeah, I just try to shut off my internal dialogue or monologue. Monologue, my internal monologue.
There's more than one of you in there.
No, it's like Dio's pre-stage ritual, right? So like in order for him to feel comfortable because he had such a stage fright, he would drink. He said his remedy was to drink 1 Budweiser and then light up a joint And then he would go up on stage about halfway through that joint and then smoke half that joint, and he's all, by about the middle of the second song, he felt comfortable and he could relax and
that's
just rock
beautiful.
it.
I'm pretty sure Dio totally left out a bunch of steps there.
No, I mean we've all got our rituals.
The first
right?
two steps sounded about right, but he skipped like step 3 through 15.
Yeah, hey, or maybe that was like
sacrifice small goat.
Yeah, maybe that was step 14 and step 15.
Yeah,
those were the last
Yeah.
steps. He didn't say
No, yeah, we all have our rituals though, right? We wake up in the morning and fucking drink our coffee and we do our thing. I know I wake up and take a bong load
Dude,
first thing.
nobody that is going to be listening to this podcast even knows who Dio is.
Yeah, they do.
Dude,
You got to sing that
Holy
song.
diver,
There you go. Yeah.
we've been up in the something else. Oh, want you something else?
There you go, guys. That's a little
Fight
Dio.
the tiger.
That reminds me of that rainbow.
Like a rain clean.
Like a rain.
Don't you see what I mean?
See that
The
one's
rainbow in the
better.
dark.
The
Rainbow in the dark.
rainbow
Dude,
in the dark is
I
better
saw a
than Holy
fucking rainbow in the
Diver.
dark one time. They had like the Erskine Creek flooded, man. This fucking creek flooded, so I had to drive around this canyon to get home. And I fucking was like up on this mountain ridge, no one else, and it was like rainy as fuck, and the moon was full and shining. It was a Memorial Day weekend. I remember that. I was driving home, and I literally stopped my car, put the brake on, and got out, and was like, "What the fuck am I looking at, dude?" It's a straight moonbow, and it went. I'm looking probably, a half mile down this hill to the river and the freeway running right adjacent next to each other, perpendicular to each other or parallel with each other. And the rainbow's just coming right up out of the river over the fucking freeway. And there's no color. Like it's not colorful. Like it's like a black and white, mild pastel, maybe a little bit of like, you kind of see color, but not really. It's just a form you can see of this fucking rainbow thing. And I went home and looked at it. I looked up all kinds of optical illusions and shit. I was like, dude, what the fuck happened tonight? Like, I feel like I was like touched by the devil.
And it was a rainbow in the dark.
It was and then I have the album, so I put that on. I was like, Heather, I saw one of these tonight, like a rainbow in the dark. I was like, fuck yeah, I'm getting down right now. No, there's all kinds of light optical illusions. Of course, you get Aurora Borealis and all that shit. It gets pretty crazy. Like,
that's not an optical illusion, though.
Well, no, you're right. It's not. You're right. It's light. It's light refracting off of various atmospheric conditions.
It's not refraction either.
What would it be? Reflection?
It's the charged particles from space follow the magnetic field lines to the poles of the Earth, and then they cause the atmosphere to luminesce like a fluorescent bulb. I'm
pretty sure that that's just a cover up for the fact that it's an internal sun in the hollow earth that can, right? No, I read something about that.
Hey,
something about that.
So
how that flies into
this is such a great segue for our next topic, which is did you guys hear about the Daredevil guy that was going to launch himself in a steam powered rocket?
What? A steam powered rocket? That right there sounds so fucking steampunk. It's not even funny.
I know.
Dude.
Like, shit's
can you imagine?
Cool,
like, oh my god, that's OG.
Well,
is it going to be made of wood?
Yeah, man. I wish you guys had heard this story because, well, anyway, this guy. So he's a daredevil, and he builds these steam powered rockets, and he launches himself in them. And he didn't have any money. Imagine that.
No way.
And so he's like, I really want to launch myself in this rocket, but I don't have no money. And then he's like, hey, flat earthers, I'll
fucking prove this shit.
I'll prove the earth is flat if you guys give me lots of money.
Here's a bunch of money.
And so flat earthers were like, fuck yeah. And so he put a flat earth emblem on the side of his rocket. And then there were a million mainstream news articles about how he's trying to prove the earth is flat, blah, 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 which actually isn't true. He just wanted funding, right?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
And the rocket only goes up like a few thousand feet, so it's not even close to high enough to like see the curve one way or the other.
Yeah, yeah.
But here's the kicker, right? That this is the current event part of this story that just happened. The government said, nope, you can't do it.
Oh, what? Straight up.
And flat earthers were like, see?
Oh, no fucking shit. How
in your face, the world's flat. In your face.
The government don't want you to know.
So
they're like, hey, the government decided to step in and provide you with these cameras, these fisheye lens cameras.
So the more that flat earth is a topic and the more I look into stuff, the more I think the earth is round.
He's a self-taught rocket scientist, Mad Mike Hughes, to do last-second modifications, leave his pickup flight suit, leave enough food for his 4 cats just in case anything happens. This crazy 61-year-old limo driver. Spent the last few years building a steam-powered rocket out of salvage parts in his garage. Dude, $20,000. He spent $20,000.
How much you want to
so
bet
far.
this guy's a burner?
I'm approved.
Hey, he's fucking burning something. I'll tell you that.
Amboy, California. I know. Yeah, 500 miles an hour. He can get that thing to 500 miles an hour. Like,
So
that's fucking nuts. This guy's crazy, man.
yeah, what I was gonna say is like the more, because flat Earth is like the hot topic, but the more I look into stuff, the more I realize, yep, the Earth's definitely round.
Well,
But
and
that being said,
Disinformation tactics.
well, that being said, I gotta say the absolute dumbest arguments I've heard come from the globetards. The flat Earth people are definitely wrong. That being said, their arguments are like sort of at least hold water, and then you like look
They
into it,
better.
and you look into it, and you're like, nope, they're wrong about that. But at least they had a logical argument. The globetards on Facebook arguing against flat Earth are fucking idiots. Like,
Yeah.
so, man, like,
Well, that's what's hard. It gives credence to the side that's wrong. You know what I mean? When you got
Right,
idiots
right,
representing
right.
the side that's right. Like, but that's all part of that disinformation. Like, people are just, when you fucking convoluted enough, you know what I mean? If there is a power structure that's in control and they're trying to do that, but you know what I mean? I give nothing. I give nothing my full belief, but I try to, like I've said, see the world through different lenses, yeah, these flat earthers believe this. So what has convinced them? Try to put yourself in a neutral mindset and be like, all right, here it is. Here's what they call the facts.
dude,
You know what
I got nothing against flat Earthers. I'll tell you that for sure.
Yeah, me
But
neither.
I'm like 99.99999% sure they're wrong.
999.
No, we've known for so fucking long, man. We've got people that measured,
Well, I saw a
the light
picture-
shining down the well. Who was a guy in ancient Greece? I mean,
I
he-
saw
he
a picture
discovered it.
today of the current wildfires in California from space, and like the curvature of the Earth is super obvious. And the picture, dude, it's not CGI. Like, I've seen a lot of NASA's CGI. Like, NASA definitely does CGI.
They definitely do. They have their
But
reasons.
this
They usually
picture,
disclose those.
was not CGI. It was a legit picture, and it was obviously you couldn't see the whole Earth as a globe, but you could definitely see curvature from the horizon, and it wasn't like the fisheye lens. Because that's the other thing, dude. Is like all those pictures. So, globetards will always say, well, look at the pictures from balloons, like the Earth's curved. No, bullshit. All those pictures are with a fisheye lens, dude.
Yeah, and you can tell. You see, like, the tethered rope is like curved. There's
And
things that shouldn't be curved.
and then
that are curving.
there's like a few pictures from balloons without the fisheye lens. There's a hell of a lot more with the fisheye lens, but without, and the horizon's flat as fuck. But the thing is
how
that
much of the horizon are they?
yeah,
capturing?
the problem is that the balloons don't go up high enough to see the curvature. That's the issue.
yeah, and because the higher up you go, the more of the horizon you're capturing.
But
more
go on-
Hey, there's your next investment, flat earthers. You guys need to invest in balloon technology and improve those fucking balloons, and then get them up there higher and prove that shit, man.
But go
not
on
a good
Facebook and pretend like you're a flat earther, and you'll get 1 million people telling you to go look at these fisheye lens fucking
Is that the
balloon.
new hustle? That guy's a
Fish eye,
creative hustler.
that's
He
another
is.
one of those things where it just gives more credence to the side that is very likely not correct.
Right.
I mean, why go up there and use a fisheye lens? I don't care about your price. If you're building a fucking rocket for $1,500 in your backyard, and then you attach a fucking $30 fisheye lens, fuck, man, you could have just put a little more thought and money into it. You know what I mean? And that's that disinformation supposedly.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure flat Earth is disinfo.
Yeah,
And
I
you-
think,
and
or
you
even
know
just-
that, like-
I like the idea of it as a thought experiment. Hey, like,
And
let's challenge your
there's so
perception.
many mainstream media articles that are just like, oh, you think politician is maybe misusing funds? Guess what? Only people that are flat earthers think that. There's so
Yeah.
many, dude. They
Well,
use that shit.
Yeah, that's the linking of disinformation
Yeah,
to
no,
disinformation, right? I mean, you've got like, hey, we've got these idiots, and we're gonna link them to whatever group we want to discredit.
Hey, CIA coined the term conspiracy theorist, so
COINTELPRO, right? Is that the
It's-
that's-
Yeah.
shit hasn't changed. They love when someone comes out with something, outlandish and that you can poke holes into. They love that shit. But then, there's a valid argument on their point too, on the flat earthers point.
And that's why.
Yeah,
That's probably why.
it's
Sorry.
it's total disinformation, man. Like, I believe that.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
That's why the flat Earth arguments are actually sort of legit at first. Is because they're made up by the CIA.
no shit. Yeah, that's it too. You pepper some truth in there, and I mean, it only takes a little bit of truth for any. I mean, I latch on.
But okay,
there was
so
a point where I latched onto ideals. You know what I mean? In my life, I think I've grown out of that. I've tried to be objective and neutral in what I view in the world, and really not. It's that degaff, but you care enough to be taking an interest in these things and reading different points of views. But you just don't invest yourself emotionally into what you think is right or correct. Like, fuck, everything's got its place. Right.
Yeah, that's investing a lot too. You know, you're putting mental and physical energy into that, and
into a belief.
Into some belief, and that drains a lot out of you. It really does.
Hell yeah, that power. You have to use your mind. We were talking about that. The mind takes up what 25% of your daily caloric intake, maybe more if you're really active. Like we were talking about tripping in the desert. You know, if you're fucking tripping for 4 days. The mental strain of doing that, you're using your calories, probably 40% of your calories in your brain, just to activate your brain.
You know, the person I first ever took mushrooms with, the first mushroom trip I ever had, the person I was with was a biochemist, and he said exactly that. He's like, oh,
that's cool.
Your brain uses like so many calories, and like these mushrooms make your brain go like 3 times faster. So like
some food.
You're probably really burning a lot of calories when you eat mushrooms.
Eat some food. Yeah, it's like physical. I've argued as a songwriter. I sit there and there have been times when, and I've said about how the songs travel through you. Whatever, it still takes fucking brain power, man. It takes I'll be hungry and I'm a fat ass. I always consider I'm like no, I can, and I do the fasting. Not on purpose, just because I'm fat and I gorged myself last night, so I don't need to eat for 18 hours,
which is totally bad. That's
it's not like I'm healthy. Don't get the wrong
so.
idea, folks. I'm a fucking
And so you drink sodas all day instead?
No, I don't drink soda at all. Actually, we drink soda when we have pizza night. We'll drink soda on pizza night. I don't want soda in my house all the time because my kids. I have milk and fucking water. That's what I had growing up.
Smart.
And that's what you might do for my kids. Need milk. I don't, but that's not to stop me from putting 6 scoops of fucking Nesquik fucking crack into that shit, and I'll drink the fuck. I'll drink like a quarter gallon and then wake up at 3 a.m. and shit a fucking bowl of milk into the shitter. Disgusting. I know this is crude as fucking wrong, but I'm a fatty, but I feel like that that fucking diet, man, the way you treat your body and shit, it matters. What were we actually talking? What were we talking about? What was it?
It doesn't matter.
I lost it, man. I got so I actually you got me thinking about chocolate milk, man. I got myself thinking about chocolate milk. I can't get my head off it. I love it. I'm addicted, man. I'm like a fat fucking. I'm like the guy that's like, oh, I'm gonna pay for this later. I just do it. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah.
Hey, you got that chocolate milk?
I'm scratching my fucking beard and shit. Get my fingers in there. I'm like, man, I need some chocolate milk, man. No, just any kind of. I put all kinds of powdered stuff into my life. And I'm not talking about drugs. I'm talking about sugar. Refined sugar. I've been tripping on it, man. I want to try to do this carnivore diet. I always want to try shit. I'm that fucker that's like, let's do this. And then I'm like, I get 3 days into it and I forget that I'm doing it and I wake up and go into my routine. So I pour 4 scoops of fucking into a 32-ounce cup of coffee. I'll put 4 or 5 scoops of creamer, which is basically hydrogenated corn syrup. You're not looking at anything, and then some milk
that
solids.
Will definitely kill you.
And then some sugar, 2 scoops of fucking just refined white sugar, man. And look it's straight 2 different types of white powder. I might as well throw a half gram of cocaine in that bitch, and
it'll probably be better for you. Right?
Seriously, what the fuck are you doing to yourself, man? Drink some fucking black coffee with a little cream in it or something. It's good. It's not bad.
Espressos.
Yeah,
drink the Hawaiian espressos, people. Seriously, that shit's like a religious experience, man. It truly, truly is like a religious experience. And I'm just starting to get into coffee too.
What was the top? What were you talking about originally?
Let's just wrap this one up.